Aaron Paul Fulbrook, born April 12, 1991, went to heaven February 12, 2009. This is his story. This picture was taken the summer of 2009 on Marco Island, before Aaron went to heaven. I'm Aaron's mom, and I'm to share a little bit about Aaron's story. I want to share with you a little bit about Narcotics and Overdose Prevention Education, N.O.P.E. N.O.P.E is a program that was started by Karen Perry in southern Florida, and I am one of its members and one of the parents that do many of the programs here in Florida. I live in Brevard County, Florida. My son Aaron passed away, and I share his story currently here in Seminole County and in Brevard County. And I want to share it with you. Accidental overdose of prescribed medications killed too many young children and adults and teenagers, and they killed my son Aaron. Aaron was like many people like you, like many grandchildren that you may have, like brothers and sisters that you may have, like friends that you may have. And Aaron died because of the code of silence, where you know that people are taking drugs, but you don't say anything. Aaron was born as my 5-pound bag of flour. He was constantly getting into trouble. If he wasn't pulling up the neighbor's petunias, he was getting in mud puddles and making all kinds of ruckuses. He was full of energy and creating things. When I give my N.O.P.E presentation, I show a basket like this, and inside the basket I show all kinds of things inside of memories that I have of Aaron. I'll share some of those things with you that I have. Some of the things that I share are the baby bracelet that was around his wrist and the Billy Rubin goggles that he wore. When he was a baby, he had to sit under Billy Rubin lights, so his brothers and sisters sang a song, and they said he was so silly because he sat under the Billy Rubin lights too long, and so they sang, "My brother, he's special," and they'd always laugh and kid him. Aaron had a way of always getting into all kinds of trouble, and he would always try to find ways to make money. Although this paper contains his obituary, it reminds me of the many newspaper routes that he had. He was one of the youngest kids to be able to have a newspaper route. He started his when he was 7, and he would always go and help the elderly people and cleaning their garages and helping them shovel their driveway when we lived up north before we moved down to Florida. He had a great heart, and he was always helping the underdogs, and he was always creative, and he was always looking for ways to make money. And so his money jar here always reminded me of all the ways that Aaron would make money. And this is actually his money jar. He would always collect rare coins and pennies. And one day he was walking across the street and he found quarters and nickels and dimes and pennies. And one day in the grocery store we looked down and he found a $20 bill. If there was a way to make money, Aaron would find it. One day he and his friend Matthew, they even started a company called A&M Landscaping, and they had little contracts in the community for landscaping and doing lawn maintenance and things like that. Aaron's biggest claim to fame, though, was his tattoo machine. He was a creative kind of guy. If he wasn't making a hovercraft, which he and Matthew did do, and it did work, it did float off the ground about 2 inches with both of them sitting on it. He made this tattoo machine, which was made out of an airplane engine with a pen at the tip, and it did work, and it did tattoo their bodies and the bodies of their friends. But he created this tattoo machine. He loved his hacky sack, which he would often use for agility because he loved to skateboard, and he would be out there because he wanted to be like Tony Hawk and use a skateboard ramp, and he was out there all the time. But he was a big jokester too. If he wasn't electrocuting you with his little electrical jokester thing, or putting cellophane on the toilet seat, or putting a whoopee cushion under your chair, maybe he was spraying fart spray all around you. That was Aaron. He was full of jokes and laughter. But he loved to fish. I can't tell you the many times he put this hat on his head and went out the front door to go to Lake Howell to go fishing. Aaron was a character. He was a special kind of guy. These keys here remind me of his 1990 Ford Explorer that he got just before he turned 17. He earned it by all of his entrepreneurial things that he did. And he was in love with Lauren. Got his Ford Explorer, and he was so excited. He would dance. He was so excited. I wanted to show you this picture. I'm kind of dancing around. That's that kind of smile that Aaron had. And I'll show you in the book, because I want you to see that Aaron was a real person. Because I want you to remember this picture here with him with his sunglasses on. I want you to remember him with that hat on, and I want you to remember him right here with that picture of Lauren and him. Biggest thing when you lose somebody and when you give presentations about narcotics overdose prevention is that people forget that the person you're talking about was a real person. In Aaron's junior year, something started to go wrong. And people around Aaron knew that there was something going wrong, but it was the code of silence that kept them from saying anything. Maybe things would have been very different had they said something to me, but it was the code of silence that kept them quiet. Well, I'm here to tell you that the code of silence has the stench of death all around it. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. Aaron was having some problems with ADD. I was getting him help with a doctor. He was getting some help with a psychiatrist. He was on some different medications. But I never suspected drugs. I was getting him urine tested. So I was doing what I knew what to do as a parent. When he started, he was dual enrolled in the electrical program. He was doing okay with his grades. But he wasn't happy, and I didn't know what was wrong. When he went to homecoming, he started drinking. And this is the suspension letter he got, because he had to be expelled from school because he was drinking at homecoming. He had to go to a program called Excel, and he was in that program. He really felt that God had put him there for a reason, and he was ashamed of himself. He always wanted to please me, and he knew I was always standing behind him the whole way, and he tried to help the other kids at that program because he realized they had a life that was so much harder than his. Got back to school, and he was able to stay in dual enrolled in college, and he was getting A's, and he was doing really well, and he loved the career that he was setting up for himself. When he got back, he and his friend Austin started stealing stuff out of open cars, and they got arrested. And Aaron got sent to juvie. This is the letter he sent me, 12th of December, 2008. This is a precious letter to me. It's the only letter that I have that Aaron wrote me. Thank you for coming to visit me, Mom. I love you. Your son, Aaron Fulbrook. I treasure this letter. I was sorry that he had made me be ashamed of him. And he was talking in this letter. He was sad that he didn't get to talk to me that day, and he was so happy that I would come and visit him every time I could. When he was in juvie, he said to me, "Mom, God has a plan for me, and that 2009 is going to be a year of change for me." He went on home detention, and for that month and a half, we spent every day together. I didn't know that those would be the last every days I'd have with my son. Remember that picture I showed you with Aaron in his sunglasses? Well, I can't find the sunglasses. Oh, yeah, here they are. These are the sunglasses he wore. He wore these on February 11th, 2009, when he went before the judge. And that picture I showed you in the book, well, that's the picture when Aaron, I'll show it to you again, went before a detention officer and he got his bracelet off. That's the day when Aaron said to me, "Mom, I'm so happy. I'm so very happy." And he was making changes in his life, and he stood before the judge and he was going to take whatever consequences the judge was going to make for him. He called his friend Gio over, and they were going to go to school the next day, and we were going to celebrate my daughter's 21st birthday. He said, "God had all this happen to me for a reason, and I know God's got a plan for my life. Don't worry, Mom. Everything's going to be okay." He said, "I want to make God proud of me." He came into my room that night. He bebopped in, gave me a kiss, and he said, "Mom, you're the best mom in the whole wide world." Gave me a kiss and he looked at me, and he stopped at my door and he looked at me again, and that's the last time I saw my son alive. The next morning I got up and I went to work. And he didn't get up for school, and I thought that maybe he just stayed to wait for me to get home and then we'd go to celebrate Amy's birthday. I called him from work and he didn't answer his phone, which was odd. I got home. I called him on the way home. He didn't answer his phone, and I got worried. I called him when I walked in the door. He didn't answer his phone, and I went to his door. The night before, his friend had woken me up at midnight and asked me, said Aaron was in a dead sleep and would I let him out the front door. He had to go home early. I didn't think anything of that either. So I'm speeding ahead now. I'm coming home from work, and I'm really nervous. Why isn't Aaron answering his phone? I get home, I call his name, he's not answering. I go to his bedroom door, it's locked. I'm calling his name, I'm pounding on the door, he's not answering. I run around the back of the door to his back window. I open his window and I climb through, and I see him lying on his bed. And I saw his blue, cold, lifeless body laying there. And I knew he was dead. I felt for his pulse. I ran and got my stethoscope, and I tried to hear his heartbeat, and I knew he was gone. I ran and I called 911. And they came and got him. But I knew my son was long gone. They took his body out to the living room floor, and I remember calling my girls on the phone, telling them my son was gone. He was gone. I could have locked of his hair off. I took his bracelet off and his necklace off because my house was a crime scene. They wouldn't let me touch him anymore. He told me that my son had died from an accidental overdose of Oxycodone and Xanax. They put me in another room and they zipped my son up in a body bag. I couldn't see my son again. This is the autopsy that tells me how they cut my son's body up and how they determined the cause of death. All because somebody kept the code of silence. All because nobody would tell me. All because they wouldn't tell the truth and try to get him help. The code of silence has the stench of death around it. This is the cremation certificate. This is the funeral card. And that's all I have in my basket of memories of Aaron. I have this music box. Aaron made it for me. He was age 12. This is to the best mom. I don't know if you can see it. You know, you have the power to change lives. You have the power to get the N.O.P.E program in your school. You have the power to stop the stench of death in your life by speaking up. If you know of a friend who's using drugs, you have the power to speak up and tell somebody to get your friend's help. If you're using drugs and you think that you can use it and you're not hurting yourself, well, you know what? Aaron thought that he wasn't hurting himself either. But you use it one night and you're okay. You use it the next night and you're okay. You use it the third night and you might die. Aaron played Russian roulette and it cost him his life. He put himself so far into a deep sleep that he couldn't wake up. And he died. And now his mom has to get up and remember finding him dead every day of her life. His sisters have to remember seeing him dying on the floor, dead on the floor. His brother has to remember never seeing him alive ever again. His nieces and nephews never get to know Uncle Aaron. His love of his life, Lauren, has to live over the rest of her life, never being his wife. My son is forever 17. He's living in heaven, and he lives in my heart. But I shouldn't have had to bury my son at 17. That's my story. Thank you.